guidelines, but it's his own fault because he hadn't connected to Skype earlier on when I was trying to reach him.
Typical, eh?
So, Alan, are you with us?
I am. Give me 2 wee seconds to get rid of this stream. Yeah, there we go. I'm with you fully and functionally.
First and foremost, Happy New Year.
Yeah,
Happy Hogmanay.
Happy Hogmanay, yes. It's been a couple of weeks since we talked to you. Thank you very much for coming on the show.
Not a problem.
Was Christmas good to you?
It was, yes. It was very good. The big fat guy with the white beard was very generous.
Well, whatever floats your boat, Al, but we're not talking about your private life here.
That's it. Gets you through the night.
Boom.
So he was good to you. Got some movies, some games, some comic books. That kind of how it worked?
New camcorder, so...
Ooh.
You know, loads of other funky stuff.
Cool.
Some cash and stuff. It's all good.
Well, listen, we don't care. We don't care what Santa Claus brought you. That's just small talk. We're here to talk about games.
Well, that's fine.
All right.
I wasn't on here to talk about.
It's not all about you, Al.
Presents.
It's not all about you.
It is actually all about me. I am the sun. The earth revolves around me.
All right. Okay. Fair enough. Right. Talk to us now. 2013 has been and gone. We've been talking sort of about some of the highlights, some of the things that we really loved about the year so far. We had Stuart and Andy on from the Monday Movie Show. They were talking about their favourite sort of TV and movie things. And of course, Stuart had already talked about the PlayStation and the Xbox as being big events, big parts of 2013 for him. Talk to us, Al, about what happened in the gaming world.
Well, I mean, there was a lot happened in the gaming world. It's the end of one generation, so to speak, and the start of another. And it wasn't all good, because, you know, it's not going to be all good. It's never going to be all good. But it was good enough. It seems like loads of people are enjoying the PlayStation 4. They're enjoying the Xbox One. I've still yet to make a decision as to what one I'm going to buy. But, you know, it seems like it's going well. The last generation... Well, I mean, Xbox 360 games and PS3 games are going to continue to come out, but they've kind of had their last hurrah with PlayStation 3 having The Last of Us and Xbox having maybe a better version of Grand Theft Auto 5. You know, it seemed to run a little bit better. I've played it on both systems. But, you know, they've had their last kind of, yes, let's go, let's punch it to the limit. And they've done it. So I think that was the biggest things this year. And also, indie games have really taken off. They've really went up into the stratosphere. And it's kind of crazy, especially on the PC. The indie game has been king.
Okay.
And I think one of the biggest things this year in gaming has been YouTube. YouTube has really pushed gaming into that other realm, because there's so many people doing gaming videos on YouTube. I mean, the biggest YouTuber in the world right now is PewDiePie, and PewDiePie does exclusively gaming videos. So there's loads and loads of people watching him. There's loads of people watching YouTube to get their news, to get their gaming fixes, to see games before they buy them. And I mean, I even jumped on the bandwagon myself this year.
You did? You're quite prolific.
I think I am. I hope I am. I am. Yes, I am.
Good. We're glad we've decided on that. Okay, so apart from YouTube, then what else?
Well, obviously, LucasArts went downhill. It disbanded, and then EA came out with the new license for the Star Wars games. So they're saying there's going to be something like 15 new Star Wars games. One of them that was announced was Star Wars Battlefront, which we've seen the trailer for that at E3. Thank you very much. And you know, EA are actually in a lot of trouble right now. They're getting sued left, right and centre because their latest game, Battlefield 4, isn't doing as well as it should be doing because it was kind of pushed out too early. Just like a premature baby. But, you know, it's one of those things that I know for a fact that EA are going to survive because they have the Star Wars license. You know, you have the Star Wars license, there's a good chance you're going to survive because there's lots of these games coming. Star Wars fans are at fever pitch right now, and they're going to want to buy every single game that comes this way. One of the first games you'll see isn't actually from EA, but it's a dogfighting game, and it is Star Wars. Oh my god, the name just left my head. But it's a dogfighting game. It's for PC only at this moment in time. It's a free-to-play game. You're going to go on your X-Wings, your TIE fighters. You're going to go around space, shooting each other, destroying each other, figuring out how to take down either the Empire or the Rebel Alliance.
Okay.
And I think that's about it. Or other than that, just loads of games coming out. loads of games being bad, loads of games being good, and yeah, it was a good year in gaming in general.
Okay, now, for a good year in gaming, what were your favourite games of the year? What games this year really made you sit up and go, oh, wow?
Okay, well, the first one was Grand Theft Auto 5. Grand Theft Auto 5 was an absolutely brilliant game. It was a massive game that just sprawled one of the biggest maps you've ever seen in any game. It had 3 consecutive storylines that melded into one storyline, and it was just a beautiful game to look at. Plus, it pushed the power of the current, well, not the current now, but the current generation of consoles then. It pushed their hardware to its absolute limit. I mean, this game is so good, and you can overlook the little problems like buildings appearing as you're driving towards them and people not being on the street and stuff, because this was the pinnacle of that generation. This was the game that people will look back on and go, what was the best looking game of the Xbox 360 and the PS3? People will go, yeah, it was definitely Grand Theft Auto 5, because it really was. The game cost a lot to make, something like 50 million to make, but it made it back within a day. And it's just an absolute amazing game. Grand Theft Auto went from being a silly little top-down driving shooter where it was always on the news, getting blamed for everything, to this absolute opus that is Grand Theft Auto 5, which is 3D, it is fully rendered, and it looks and acts real, which is absolutely amazing. You can't ask for anything more than that.
Okay.
Now, the next one that I've got on my list is the Stanley Parable. Now, the Stanley Parable, it's quite hard to say if the Stanley Parable is actually a game or not. It's a PC exclusive. It was created from a mod of Half-Life 2. And it is... Basically, it's a game where you're Stanley. Maybe you're Stanley. You might not be Stanley. You could be. You might not be. It's really hard to explain. But you're in an office, and it turns out nobody else is in the office, so you try and figure out where they are. But you don't need to figure out where they are. You could just stay in your office, and that could be the end of the game. Or you could go out and look at the office and figure things out and touch everything in the office. And the beautiful thing of this is you've got a narrator, a lovely English narrator as well, and he's telling you what to do. So he's saying, like, Stanley decided to go to the meeting room, but you come to a set of doors and it says, at the left, Stanley could go to the meeting room. At the right, well, there was no point in speaking about that because it didn't go to the meeting room. If you go right, he goes, well, Stanley completely ignored my instructions and started going this way. Basically, the game is... It's a conversation about games. It's what you choose to do in a game and how you choose to do it. I mean, there's a point where you're on this big thing and it just says, do not go over the edge because you'll die if you go over the edge. It's a big, massive drop and you can just jump off. And it goes, Stanley decided it was too much for him and just jumped off the crane. And it's that kind of thing. It's to show you how stupid some of the decisions that you make whilst playing a game are. Some of the arbitrary decisions that you make. There's one point in the game where you could just sit in the broom cupboard. You could just go in and he says, there is nothing in this broom cupboard. Stanley did not see a reason to stay in there. And you just close the door. He says, Stanley closed the door, even though there is nothing in the broom cupboard.
Sounds like my sort of game.
It's crazy. You can sit in the broom cupboard for 20 minutes and this guy keeps piping up every so often going, there was no reason for Stanley to be in here. Why is he still in here?
Sounds like my Friday nights.
Get out of that closet, Saxon. Sorry, cupboard I meant to say.
Are you busy? I'm in Narnia. I'm not far back in the closet.
You're channeling a bit of Julian there again.
But now on the Following the Nerd show. Our man Saxon's so far back in the closet he's finding Christmas presents.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Brilliant.
Sorry, Al.
It's fine. So moving on from Stanley Parable, it's a game that you can buy and check out for yourself. It's not a really expensive game. It's about £6 on PC. I think most PCs can run it as well. It's not a graphically amazing game or anything. So moving on from that, I had Brothers: A Tale of Two Sons. I was lucky enough to get a review code for Brothers: A Tale of Two Sons for the Xbox 360. I really didn't expect much of it because sometimes you get review codes from random companies and they say, this is a brilliant game by us, blah, 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 blah. Here you go. And you play it and you go, wow, this is one of the worst things that I've ever come across in my absolute life. So I played Brothers and didn't put it down for I think the story goes on for maybe 3-4 hours at most, depending on how slow you play the game. And basically, you control one brother with one thumbstick of the controller and one brother with the other thumbstick, and it's a puzzle platformer. So you're solving puzzles, you're trying to get up higher in mountains and stuff and get round mountains, and you're going from one end of this map to the other to go to this magic tree which there is sap on that can save your father who's dying. But this land is absolutely magical. It's got trolls, it's got giants, it's got these weird spider creatures, and you're just trying to solve puzzles as you go along. But the story is absolutely heartbreaking. The thing about it is the main characters, well, none of the characters in the game actually speak any sense. It's just a gibberish language that doesn't make any sense. It's all the emotion that you get from this game is all through the actions on the screen. And it's not a brilliant looking game, but by God, it's one of the best games I've played this year. It's just so good, and the emotion in it just sticks with me. It really does just stick, and I couldn't believe how good this game was, considering it was a small indie arcade game for the 360. It's now out on Steam and PS3 as well. But okay. Brilliant. If you get a chance, you should pick it up. So moving on from there, we have The Last of Us. The Last of Us is absolutely, hands down, one of my favourite games ever. Not just my favourite game of this gen, not my favourite game of 2013, my favourite game ever. It was just absolutely brilliant. The storyline is phenomenal. It's just absolutely out there. I've heard a lot of people say, well, the story wasn't actually that good. I cried like 3 times, and I mean, I suppose maybe I was upset at the time. I was in that kind of emotional state, but honestly, the game is just so emotional that I don't understand how anybody could not, have a little tear in their eye, especially people who are parents, because there's a lot of things in there. I'm not a parent, but I'm just emotional that way. It's just such a good-looking game. It really harnessed the last of the power of the PS3 and just pushed it. Naughty Dog are a studio that do that. They're a Sony-owned studio, so they know how to harness the power of the PS3. And this game was just a real good. Thank you very much for buying our games on PS3. We'll see you in the PS4. The game is a post-apocalyptic game where you play Joel. Joel is this kind of world-weary guy who's, he's seen the world before it was post-apocalyptic. Now he's seen.
We're losing you there, Alan. You there?
And yes.
Are you there, Alan?
Hello.
Hello.
Hey,
there you go.
Oh, what happened? What was the last thing
you were talking about The Last of Us? You're saying about how it was like seeing the PS4?
Right. So, yeah, it's the kind of story of The Last of Us is that you are Joel, you're taking this girl Ellie across country, you're a smuggler in the post-apocalyptic world. You've seen the world before it was post-apocalyptic, but she has never seen it. So sometimes you're seeing things through her eyes where she looks at a model and she goes, why was she so skinny? And he goes, well, that's what people were like back then. She's like, doesn't make any sense. It kind of makes sense. To us, we're like, oh, yeah, of course. Yeah, that's what models look like. They look like that. But in a post-apocalyptic world where you try and get every bit of food you possibly can, it doesn't make any sense anymore. There is none of that fake beauty to the world anymore.
Okay.
And it's just such a wonderful game. If you've got a PS3, you should really pick it up. I very much doubt that you'll be upset with that purchase. And my number one game of 2013, the game that I thought was absolutely brilliant. It was a showstopper. It stopped everything. It made everything, worth playing. Was a game called Gone Home for the PC. It's a PC exclusive, so unfortunately you can't play it on console or anything. It was from some of the people that brought you BioShock. And it's just this absolutely wonderful game where you're this girl who gets home after a year-long trip in Europe. You come home and your parents have moved house. They moved into this big house. Your uncle has passed away and he's passed this house down to them. So you go there. You've never been there before. So you get in and it turns out that nobody's home. So you try to find out why people aren't home. You walk around this house. It's in a storm. You're in the early 90s. So there's a lot of kind of nostalgia there for me. And you just kind of walk around. You pick things up, you look at things, you find diary entries from your sister, you find out what your dad's been up to, what your mum's been up to in this year. And it is just a story about exploration. Sorry, it's just a game about exploration and story. That's it. There's no fighting in the game. There's no monsters jumping out at you. There's nothing like that. It is just simply you explore and you find things out. And that's absolutely amazing. I mean, a lot of people would look at this game and go, well, it's literally you walking around the house. What's so exciting about that? But it's never really been done before. It's never been done in the sense of, right, let's walk around the house, pick every single thing up, look at it, and figure things out, figure out where this story's going to go. I accidentally completed the game in like 13 minutes because I found one of the clues to end the game